I have with me Dr. Carole Nakhle, CEO Crystol Energy and founder of Access for Women in Energy. Welcome, Carole, in Abu Dhabi in ADIPEC. Let's start by talking about the recent COP26. A lot of people were disappointed by the outcomes. How did you see it?
I saw it more as an expected outcome. Of course, there will always be people disappointed and people who would see it as a great success because we have a global problem, but very different interests, very different priorities between the countries participating. So you have, on the one hand, the climate zealots would like to see oil and gas over today before tomorrow. And on the other hand, you have people who say, no, hold on a minute, we need still fossil fuel, oil and gas, as well as coal. So COP26 tried to merge the interests of these divergent views. And at the end, when you create consensus, you will always have somebody who would be disappointed, another who will praise it as a success. But in my opinion, it was expected. You have the likes of China and India, where coal contributes to more than 70%. Let's say in India, more than 72% of power generation, in China, 63% of power generation. It's not realistic to tell them just simply kill it off and then do something, use something else. What is that something else? At the moment, you have only the choice of gas, natural gas, so you go back to fossil fuels. Renewables are unable to fill the gap, and nuclear, you need time to build that, capacity to generate this amount of energy. So for me, it was a positive step in the right direction, maybe not as big as people wanted it, especially the climate zealots, but it is not a disappointment in my opinion.
One of the challenges is the financial aspect of it. It will cost a lot. Who will pay for it at the end? And also the how fast can we go in developing new technologies? What do you think also?
You have the financing aspect, of course, it's a problem, but we saw there a positive development where the rich countries want to allocate more funds to the poorer nations to help them to deal with the climate change crisis, the effects of climate change. But there are also other dimensions to it that not many people talk about it. That if you look at the developing countries, think of sub-Saharan Africa, think even of Latin America, these countries actually depend a lot on oil and gas revenues, and they still have lots of resources in the ground that they would like to develop, and they need those resources to be developed so that they can generate enough income to support their economy, to lift their people out of poverty. What do you tell them there? You tell them leave them in the ground and just, don't worry about your economic development. We're going to help you. I don't know. And also I would like to bring into the picture COVID-19. COVID-19, I think it has reset all our forecasts for the future. I think everybody today is poorer than when we were before COVID hit, whether you're talking about government, industry, consumers, and therefore we have to refresh our views about the future going forward.
Can energy companies today continue what they are doing and keep their promises when it comes to fighting climate change, decarbonizing net zero targets? How effective can they be?
Definitely, they can continue doing what they're doing for a simple reason, because there is still demand for oil and gas. I mean, look at when in 2020, when COVID hit and people were not flying, people were not driving, and we still had around 80 million barrels of oil consumed daily. So we did not just simply close the tap. So there will always be demand for oil and gas. And in the future, of course, it will shrink if we continue with the policies. But what companies can do, and I think they have the capability, the capital, the technology, and the will to do it, is reduce the environmental impact of their activities on the environment. Even by still investing in conventional oil and gas, they can do a lot to minimize the impact, whether in terms of methane reduction, gas flaring, carbon capture and storage, you see. But even, if we don't apply new technologies, you can do a lot to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of your operation.
So you are optimistic about the decarbonization in the future?
I cannot not be, because I'm a strong believer in science and technology. And if you think about where we were 40, 50 years ago and where we are today, of course, not going to be easy. It was never meant to be easy. And whoever said it was going to be easy and cheap was not really honest or did not know any better. We are learning this is not going to be easy or cheap. But also we have perhaps to accept the fact that energy transition, for it to accelerate, ironically, you need more oil and gas to support the investment in renewable energy and for the backup and avoiding, problems that you don't have electricity when the sun is not shining. And then at a later stage, so it's a question of time, really, then you can say, okay, we're ready to turn the page on oil and gas. But at the moment, energy transition is about integration, not substitution, between various sources of energy.
Let's talk about the workforce and the talents required for this transition. Are we talking about new skills here?
First of all, you still need skills, right? The same old-fashioned skills. But the problem, the issue of talent is not something new. It's a lingering problem that the industry has been facing over decades. And you can see the surveys of the industry from even the beginning 2000. They always complained about not being able to attract sufficient talent. And today, I think the challenge is much bigger because many see the industry as a dying industry. So if you go to university today, you want to study a degree, you're unlikely to pick oil and gas because you think it's an old-fashioned industry and want something more glamorous, more futuristic. So here I think the industry can do a lot to improve its communication, particularly when it comes to digitalization and adoption of technology, because the industry is really at the forefront of the adoption of digitalization. People don't know that. Many young people don't see that. But actually, it's fascinating. When you go inside, an organization, when they are drilling for oil, it's as if you are in a spaceship. So that's one way the industry can use to improve its appeal to the young talent.
Dr. Carole, you are the founder of Access for Women in Energy. Is this sector still a man's world?
Definitely. I mean, look around you. Look at the CEOs of oil companies. Look at the energy ministers in oil-producing countries and the head of national oil companies. You don't see many women there, right? You can pinpoint those women. And it's not my view. It's a statistical figure. So if you look at the global average, I think less than 17% of the executives at the top levels are female. That is really embarrassing for an industry which is more than a century old. And we've been talking about diversity for many, many years. So it's really a shame that we are still standing today talking about this issue, but it's definitely a man's word. And why look too far? Look at OPEC Plus, and you can see it's definitely a man's word.
Let's talk about ADIPEC this year. How important is to host such an event, having everybody back in face-to-face, discussing challenges, opportunities, especially when it comes right after COP26? Does it have a special importance this time?
It definitely has an importance irrespective of the content, irrespective of the topic, but the fact that we're back to in-person event at such a scale after we've all been isolated in our living room wearing flip-flops and slippers, I think it sends a strong message that maybe the pandemic, at the end of the pandemic, is in sight and we're going to some kind of normal. It also raises the question that many people asked during the pandemic, are we moving away from these kind of big gatherings and we're going to limit ourselves to a virtual world? I don't think so. I was amazed by the number of people who attended ADIPEC. However, in terms of content, I noticed a difference in the tone, in the focus, because the last time I attended in person was in 2019, and there in almost every single discussion, energy transition dominated the discussion. Today, of course, energy transition is there, but there is another attention, that's another topic capturing attention, that is high energy prices, lack of investment in conventional industry, and how we can secure our energy supplies. So you see that the world kind of woke up to another problem that is going to also stay with us for some time.